From Oshkosh Community Media Services, this is Oshkosh City Cable 10 and broadcast on 101.9 FM WOCT Oshkosh.
The Oshkosh Senior Center presents Senior Savvy.
Senior Savvy. I'm Jane Wells, your host for today's show. Senior Savvy is brought to you by the Oshkosh Senior Center, where it's our mission to enrich the quality of lives for adults ages 50 and older. And those of you who are around the Senior Center know that we have lots of things going on this month of June, but most notably the retirement of two of our longtime staff people, Judy Brewer and Paula Stevens. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but today's show is all about retirement. And so I went out to explore a little bit about what age do people begin to understand what retirement is, because it's all something we look forward to. And then I'm going to share that video with you in a minute, and then I have a panel of guests with me today who are going to share their experiences about retirement. So now I'm going to lead into the video and fire away. I want to have a little talk with, this is my friend Thomas. Can you say hello?
Hello.
And how old are you, Thomas?
5.
5 years old. You just turned 5, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just had a birthday.
A couple days ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you about something. So, where does your daddy go every day?
He goes to work.
He goes to work. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what retirement is?
It means you stop using that job.
You're right. That's exactly what that means. And then what do you do when you're retired?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So what do you think it's going to be like for you when you retire?
I think I'll get a new job.
You think so? You think you're going to quit one job and then get another job?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. You know anybody who's retired?
One of our popes retired.
You're right. One of the popes retired. Exactly. Do you know anybody else who's retired?
Yes.
Who?
Papa Tom. He was a dentist and he retired.
He did retire. So is he still a dentist? Does he still go to work every day and do dentist stuff?
No.
No, not anymore. Now he stays and does grandpa stuff, doesn't he? Great-grandpa stuff. Cool. I'm glad that you can help us to know what a 5-year-old knows about retirement. Right? So we're back again, and I'm interviewing somebody else about retirement. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name, please?
Danielle Shea.
And Danielle, how old are you?
I'm 16.
So I am doing a little segment on retirement. And I'm just curious, at what age do you think people retire?
Like 70, 60, like 65-ish.
Okay. Yep. Usually it all depends on the person. And so tell me what you're doing to prepare yourself for retirement at this point.
I'm mostly just saving up money, and when I work, I'm putting some away for college, and then hopefully when I get into college, the money that I'm making will go towards retirement.
Oh, you're too prepared. With your grandma retired, tell me what a typical day is like for her.
Well, she wakes up usually around 7:30ish or 8, and then she'll kind of start some laundry around the house, and then she'll go to the senior center and she'll work out for a while. And then after that, she'll come home and do a lot of crosswords.
Okay, so she's not just sitting in a rocking chair knitting away, is she?
No.
Is she pretty active?
Most of the time. She tries to get out and go to the store every once in a while just to look around.
Mm-hmm. So. About how much money do you think a person needs to have set aside for retirement?
Oh, wow. A lot of money. At least $70,000. Because, depending on what age you retire and how many years, you're going to be without work. And how much Social Security and stuff like that you're planning on getting, it depends on how much you're going to need, but probably about $70,000.
You are a very knowledgeable young lady.
Thank you so much for taking the time at this very early in the morning to come on out and chat with me and letting me interview you.
No problem. Thank you.
You are welcome. And a moment of truth. This is really sad.
Hi, my name is Dan Becker. I've been retired for 19 years from C.R. Meyer, and I enjoy my retirement very much. I'm down here at the Senior Center playing cards with my friends every day.
I've been retired 7 years, and every day has been very uplifting for me. I got in with a bunch of people that I just love. So, no, I think it's wonderful to not have to worry about driving to work in the snow.
My name is Carol, and I've been retired since 2001. And I came down to the senior center to exercise, and I ended up playing cribbage 3 times a week and having a wonderful time. And I love retirement.
Hi, I'm 82 years old, and so I've been retired for a long time. I moved here from Shawano and came to the senior center and met these fantastic people. Play cards 3 times a week for 3 hours each day. Have a fantastic time here.
Okay. I'm Harry. I've been retired for 19 years from full-time teaching and so on, and I'm enjoying my life now and so on. So it's good.
So it's always interesting to find out what other people know about retirement, even a 5-year-old. And no matter where you are in the process of working in the work world, retirement, I think, is always somewhere in the back of your mind. And so we're going to talk a little bit about retirement and some of the stages that people go through, both prior to retirement and then once they are retired. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome my guests. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right. So what we're going to do is kind of go around the table, and if you all would just introduce yourself and say about how long you've been retired. So Jeff, we'll start with you.
Jeff Lethan, probably the rookie of the group. I've been retired just about 9 months.
Very good.
I'm Elsie Malin. I've been retired for 7 years.
I'm Irene Totsky, and I've been retired 1.5 years.
I'm Jim Johnson, and I've been retired for 1 month short of 2 years.
Okay. So you're the veteran when it comes to retirement. So in my studies and learning about retirement, it talked about the stages that you go through. And so much, whenever we have a transition in life, there's always some stages and processes that we have to go through, whether it's something we're really looking forward to or if it's something that, you know, is kind of thrust upon us. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about some of those stages, and if you all would be willing to share your experiences. First of all, I'm really curious, the day, retirement day, but you still have to work that day. The alarm goes off in the morning. What goes through your mind? Irene, if you want to start out and share a little bit about that.
Well, my last day of work, I was extremely excited because I had all these wonderful plans that I was about to start, and yet you're finishing your working life, and the friends that you've made, your coworkers and people you took care of. I retired from nursing, so there was a lot of goodbyes to be said. So it's a bittersweet type of thing. But there was a cake and a little party at work, and all the good things that go with that. Mm-hmm. I still had to clean out my office at the end of the day, and it was more than an 8-hour day.
I'm sure, and I'm sure as you're carrying your box of stuff out to the car for the last time, a lot goes through the mind.
Well, that's true, although I had several jobs in my life, and each time you leave a job, it's the same type of thing. You're carrying that box of goodies out with you and your little memorabilia.
Sure. So Jim, you want to share your experience about your last day?
Well, my last day was pretty undramatic. Per my request, there were no special festivities conducted.
Oh, poo.
But I did go around and of course, say goodbye to all the people that I worked with closely. And like Irene, I was very excited to get done with work and realize I don't have to get up next Monday morning and shower and shave and drive into work.
Sure.
So it is an exciting time, but you're almost like in shock.
I'm sure there's a sense of surrealness or,
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, this is really here. Elsie?
Mine was rather anticlimactic. I had just kind of kept cutting back. Like the last couple of years I worked till I was just down to 2 days a week.
Sure.
So when I left, there wasn't any big flash,
Right.
bang, boom thing. I just kind of walked out the door and didn't
Yep.
say anything to anybody. They all,
Oh.
it was no big party either.
But that is definitely one way that some people choose to do it is, you know, you cut back and you cut back and you cut back, and then, you know, it's a slower withdrawal from the work world versus I'm doing. Jeff?
Well, I spent 32 years not in the same location, but it was bittersweet. And I too left semi-quiet. There was a cake and coffee. Kind of planned my day out beforehand. Didn't come in. I went for coffee before I even went into the office, and then basically got there in enough time to have the cake and coffee, say my goodbyes to the office staff and a few people that had stopped in, and as quietly as I started my job, I ended it just as quietly.
Interesting. So before you ever even got to that day where it was your last day, there had to be some planning involved, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anybody want to share about that process? You know, if a 25-year-old is watching this show, what advice would you give to them, Jeff?
Start planning. I guess at 25, you probably should have already started planning. You know, from a 401k to, you know, if you're lucky enough to be involved in an organization or an agency that has a retirement system, take the benefits that they have and multiply them if you can. And I know that's very hard for younger families with finances and things, but as much as you can put away, it's going to benefit you.
Right. That's hard. So if you're in your 40s, how do you begin to catch up, or how do you make that leap? I don't know. Something is better than nothing, though, right? To even just get started
I
in
think
the process.
financial advisors are probably always a very wise, you know, if you're not you know, savvy to that, there's all sorts of resources that people can take advantage of. Financial advisors are definitely probably a very good option to look at, especially if you're restarting a career, you know, midway through your life cycle of work, I should say.
Right.
But you know, and there's no difference if you're 25 or 40. You still have to plan for the day that you're gonna walk out of the office or job. And
yeah, it's never too early to start planning for retirement.
Right. And I think you can't leave planning to somebody else entirely. You have to be an active participant in your plan. Because life really is all about plan B. If something happens with your main plan, you have to understand what's happening with your money or with your investments, whether it's real estate or you know, the stock market or just your company plan, your 401k. But you have to understand it. I don't think to just leave it to someone else is really always the best thing. You have to understand what they're doing with your money as well.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Elsie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I guess I never quite got to the stage where I did any planning. My husband had a very good pension plan, and he was the money maker. I just worked to have something to do after the kids got older, and so I never really worried about it or did much planning.
Yeah. Okay, so if planning is kind of the first stage, and then the second stage, of course, is the actual retirement day itself, which we've already kind of talked about in some of the emotions, although it doesn't sound like anybody here was too ripped up about it on the inside. So then there's that wonderful honeymoon phase where everything is just perfect. Isn't this great? I can sleep as late as I want, and I can do what, Jim?
Anything you want.
There you go.
That's right. You don't have to get up and go out in the cold and go drive to work in the dark and come home in the dark, and you can leave your pajamas on all day, a lot of days if you want to.
So some other people share about your honeymoon phase, or
I think I'm still in my honeymoon phase, even though it's been a year and a half. And I don't leave my pajamas on in the morning. I still get up kind of like almost as early as I used to when I worked, and I pretty much still go to bed at the same time as when I worked. But I'm now able to do everything on my own terms. I've spent a lot of time traveling since I retired. And what works well for me is if I spend a couple months that I'm gone, I'm able to then put my volunteer stuff on hold.
Sure.
And when I come back, I can jump right back into it, which is the wonderful part about volunteering. It's on your terms now. and it's
Yes.
flexible.
Right.
And so, and it's what keeps you young. It keeps you involved, and it keeps you active.
And keeps you connected.
It
with
keeps
the
you
community
connected
as a whole.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so you can find more good travel deals.
Exactly.
Traveling.
How about you, Elsie?
I'm actually busier now volunteering than I ever was when I actually worked. So
Yes.
one job just seems to always lead into
Mhm.
something else and something else. So
Right.
it's I kind of do some of the things I did when I was working, but I do more of it and
Mhm.
things that I never did do
Mhm.
when I worked. So I learned new things, and I've met a million new people. It's been great.
Exactly. Well, and again, with the volunteering, you can always say no.
Yeah.
You know, if there's something else coming up or whatever.
I have trouble
so.
with that word, but
Yeah. So Jeff is the newbie in the retirement world. How's that honeymoon going?
Well, absolutely. I guess just listening to the experience at the table, definitely the honeymoon phase. You know, I guess I'm always kind of a person that has structure, so I do
Yes.
get the opportunity now to actually sit down and watch the morning news and have a cup of coffee, as opposed to rushing off to get to work and getting there. But most definitely, you can plan your day. You can do what you want, when you want.
Sure. So do you ever have the feeling like, I'm supposed to be someplace, I'm supposed to be doing something. Oh wait, no I'm not. or not.
For me, yeah, I guess there's times where you know, you think back, you know, maybe I'm in that honeymoon stage, but I'm also at a point of going, well, this is what I would have been doing. Or
Sure.
If I see something, hear something, and I think, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that it doesn't, saying it bothers me probably is not an accurate statement, but it's reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of setting in. And so the honeymoon has also a second side to it also, where it's reality is there, but and don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it.
Right.
It's everything that I thought it was going to be, and hopefully for years to come it stays that way.
Right. But you were kind of alluding to what they consider the next stage, and that's the, oh my gosh, is this it? What else, you know, when you are so used to structure in your workday, or, you know, somebody else saying, or, you know, having all those responsibilities on you, and then suddenly you don't, it's great for a while. You can stay in your pajamas all day.
If you want to.
But after a while, you know, does that get old for some people? Or do you start to think, gosh, you know, were there things I had hoped to accomplish while I was working that I never really did, and god darn it? Or, I don't know. You guys tell me. So kind of the disenchantment phase where the newness of it wears off, except for Irene.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me it was, you know, it was surprising that after a short period of time, I mean, when I first was retired, I did anything I wanted to when I wanted to, and I didn't accomplish a whole lot some days, and played with my woodworking tools, and
Right.
played with the lawn, and did all that stuff. But after a while, the loss of the structure, like you alluded to, is definitely there. I mean, I worked for 38 consecutive years.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that structure in my life is gone. My sense of belonging is gone.
Yes.
My sense of importance vanished.
Yes.
Now I'm not part of anything,
Right.
other than my wife's relationship and my house.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
it led me to believe that I had not done enough planning, not on the financial side,
Right.
but what my life is going to be like after retirement. And I had really not thought about that.
Right. Because so often our identities of who we are is very much wrapped into what we do for a living. And so when you are no longer that that job, who am I?
Yeah. And you also develop bad habits. You know, I started developing bad habits. Didn't shave for 3 days at a time, all that kind of stuff. And it sounds, you know, a minuscule issue, but after a while, it's like it bothers you.
Right. Exactly.
But it's also a benefit that you have that you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I was going to say, you know, there's probably still a check system somewhat in place.
Yeah, there definitely is. Yes.
Anybody else about the kind of the disenchantment or?
I think you know, just the years that you spend working with people, you know, day in and day out, and the only connection you have with them is work. And you know, you spend so much time every day with those folks,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, the the tables turned and you no longer hear from them as often as you do, or the
Right.
emails stop coming, or you don't hear from things that are going on at work. Maybe that's a
Right.
little disenchantment a little bit. But I think the most important thing, and I'm probably going to be getting to that stage that you are, looking at that, just I'm a little bit behind you. But I think keeping the structure, keeping the ability to have places to go, and putting that structure upon yourself to do things is going to be very important. And for me, this is a good learning tool that I see that maybe I'll learn from you, is that I need to keep up on myself to do that.
To learn new things or to fill your day now with
Right.
other things.
Right. And we certainly have more time now to even keep up those relationships of the friends we want to keep,
Right.
and friends and family that perhaps we haven't seen in years. We can rekindle those relationships now that we didn't have time when we were in the working world.
Right, right. And the work world goes on. Your coworkers are all still in the mix of it all, and then even I would imagine sometimes if you were to get together, they're talking about stuff you don't really know about anymore, or you're out of the loop, sort of, kind of. So,
And just one quick note on that: when I go back to my former place of employment, and that, which hasn't happened very often, you don't feel like you belong. You're an outsider,
Okay.
and it's just I think it's just a natural feeling. I mean, for me it is. I mean, I still have some friends here, but
sure.
I don't feel like I belong there.
Right. Okay. So after the disenchantment or whatever, the phase of what really, so is reorientation, kind of rethinking, like you guys were just talking about. Okay, so now every day I don't have structure. So now what do I do? How do I spend my time? Who am I now that I am not premier cookie baker? So who are you now?
Well, I was a registered nurse when I was working, and I'm still a registered nurse, and I still maintain my licensing. But I guess I love volunteering. I love traveling too, but the two work together so well. So I volunteer at the senior center, and I volunteer for the Red Cross, as well as a thrift store. And between all of those things, I mean, just in active volunteering, I'm probably volunteering between 20 and 30 hours a week. And then it still leaves me more time than I ever had before for doing my social stuff and learning new things. So it feels, I guess I haven't really felt like I've lost much of my identity at all. I still keep in contact with many of the people from work.
But you've also rebuilt, I mean, as the volunteer tour, traveling type person. So it was almost as if it was happening at the same time. While the one was kind of going by the wayside, you were busy filling it back up with new things and opportunities.
Because when I first retired, I had so many volunteer things I wanted to do. But now I've weeded them down to like 3 basic ones.
Yes, exactly.
And someday that may change as my life changes, what I can actively do and what I will choose to do then to fill that in.
Right. And so that leads to the last stage, and that's getting into a routine of some type and moving on and figuring out what this next chapter of your life really looks like. And do you want it to look like X, Y, and Z, or do you want it to look like this or that? And so it's actually an exciting time as you go through those processes. Resources within the community that you felt were helpful, or just even dialoguing. So if somebody else in this situation, what would you recommend? Elsie?
When I retired, we moved from one city to another, so from a small town to a big town, Oshkosh. So it was quite different for me.
Right, lots of transitions at the same time there.
We left our friends and our family and everything. Well, we have family here, but it was quite different in that respect. I don't know if that's answering your question.
So Jeff, do you feel like you're still determining what your routine is going to be, sort of, or you're...
I think to a certain degree, yeah. There's things that I want to accomplish. I'm president of the Friends of the Oshkosh Senior Center. I have some things that I want to do there. So,
and we're glad you're there.
Thank you.
Jim, any final thoughts at all?
Finding a routine for me is a work in progress. I'm late on it. I should have been working on things earlier. I have done some charitable work. I've discovered I like helping people more than I thought I would. And I'm a recent volunteer at the Oshkosh Senior Center. And I'm extremely surprised and pleased about how nice the people are and all the activities that go on there. There are things going on there I had no idea were happening. And I'm very impressed. So I'm working on volunteering from that angle to try to develop my routine.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And learn new things, like you said, and get exposed to new people and new things. Exactly. Irene, any final thoughts or any?
No, I think I've adapted well to retirement, and you know, it's like I said, it's always about plan B. When you can't do one thing, you find something else.
Exactly. Right. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming on and sharing your stories. Any other final comments before we wrap up? Any advice to somebody who's still in that planning stage, money-wise?
Just continue to plan. You know, think about. You know, you talked about travel. You know, my wife and I are enjoying some travel opportunities that are here, and plan.
There you go. Wonderful. And volunteering is always a great way to get involved in your community and to fill your time and to share of your skills and talents too. And just because I'm a volunteer coordinator, that's kind of why I push that. So now at the Oshkosh Senior Center, we do need to say goodbye to Judy Brewer and Paula Stevens, our nurse, and Judy is our activities coordinator. And it's hard to say goodbye. The transitions are hard for employees as well as or for coworkers. So as a final goodbye, we're going to close out with just a little tribute to Judy and to Paula. So thanks, Judy and Paula. We're really going to miss you. We love you guys. Best of luck in retirement.